चक्षुरुं मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Hare Krishna everyone. Today I'll be continue reading chapter 19 of Prabupada Lilamrita. After first visit to the storefront, Chuck, Steve and Bruce each got an opportunity to see the Swami upstairs in his apartment. Steve, I was on my lunch hour and had to be back in the office very soon. I was dressed in a summer business suit. I had planned it so that I had just enough time to go to the storefront and buy some books and then go to lunch and return to work. At the storefront, one of the Swami's followers said that I could go up and see the Swami. I went upstairs to his apartment and found him at his sitting place with few boys. I must have interrupted what he was saying, but I asked him if I could purchase the 3 volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam. One of the devotees produced the books from the closet opposite Prabhupada's seat. I handled the books. They were a very special color not usually seen in America, a reddish natural earth like a brick, and I asked him how much they cost. $6 each, he said. I took $20 out of my wallet and gave it to him. He seemed the only one to ask about the price of the books or give the money to because none of the others came forward to represent him. They were just sitting back and listening to him speak. These books are commentaries on the scriptures, I asked, trying to show that I knew something about books. Swamiji said yes, they were his commentaries. Sitting smiling at ease, Swamiji was very attractive. He seemed very strong and healthy. When he smiled, all his teeth were beautiful, and his nostrils flared aristocratically, and his face was full and powerful. He was wearing an Indian cloth robe, and as he sat cross legged, his smooth skinned legs were partly exposed. He wore no shirt, but the upper part of his body was wrapped with an Indian cloth shawl. His limbs were quite slender, but he had a protruding belly. When I saw that Swamiji was having to personally handle the sales of books, I did not want to bother him. I quickly asked him to please keep the change from my $20. I took the 3 volumes without any bag and wrapping and was standing preparing to leave when Swamiji said, "Sit down," and gestured that I should sit opposite him like the others. He had said, "Sit down," in a different tone of voice. It was a heavy tone and indicated that now the sale of the books was completed and I should sit with the others and listen to him speak. He was offering me an important invitation to become like one of the others, who I knew spent many hours with him during the day when I was usually at my job and not able to come. I envied their leisure in being able to learn so much from him and sit talk intimately with him. By ending the sales transaction and asking me to sit, he assumed that I was in need of listening to him and that I had nothing better in the world to do than to stop everything else and hear him. But I was expected back at the office. I did not want to argue, but I could not possibly stay. "I'm sorry, I have to go," I said definitely. "I'm only on my lunch hour." As I said this, I had already started to move for the door. The Swamiji responded by suddenly breaking into a wide smile and looking very charming and very happy. He seemed to appreciate that I was expected back at the office. I did not want to argue, but I could not possibly stay. "I'm sorry, I have to go," I said definitely. "I'm on my lunch hour." As I said this, I had already started to move for the door, and Swamiji responded by suddenly breaking into a wide smile and looking very charming and very happy. He seemed to appreciate that I was working man and a young man on the go, and I had to come by simply because I was unemployed and had nowhere to go and nothing to do. Approving of my energetic demeanor, he allowed me to take my leave. Chuck, one of the devotees in the storefront, invited me upstairs to see the Swami in private. I was led out of the storefront into a halfway and suddenly into a beautiful little garden with a picnic table, a bird bath, a bird house, and a flower beds. After we passed through the garden, we came to a middle class apartment building. We walked up the stairs and entered an apartment which was absolutely bare of any furniture, just white walls and a parquet floor. He led me through the front room and into another room, and there was the Swami sitting in the same majestic spiritual presence on a thin cotton mat which was covered by a cloth with little elephants printed on it, and leaning back on a pillow which stood against the wall. One night, Bruce walked home with Valley and he told Valley about his interest in going to India and becoming a professor of Oriental literature. Why go to India? Valley asked. India has come here. Swamiji is teaching us these authentic things. Why go to India? Bruce thought Valley made sense. So he resolved to give up his long cherished idea of going to India, at least as long as he could go on visiting the Swami. Views. I decided to go and speak personally to Swamiji. So I went to the storefront. I found out that he lived in an apartment in the rear building. A boy told me the number and said I could just go and speak with the Swami. He said, "Yes, just go." So I walked through the storefront and there was a little courtyard where some plants were growing. Usually in New York, there were no courtyard, nothing green, but this was very attractive. And in that courtyard, there was a boy typing at a picnic table, and he looked very spiritual and dedicated. I hurried upstairs and rang the bell for apartment number 2C. After a little while, the door opened, and it was the Swami. "Yes," he said, and I said, "I would like to speak with you." He opened the door wider and stepped back and said, "Yes, come." We went inside together into his sitting room and sat down facing each other. He sat behind his metal trunk desk and on a very thin mat which was covered with a woolen blanket like cover that had frazzled ends and elephants decorating it. He asked me my name and I told him it was Bruce. And then he remarked, "Ah, in India during the British period, there was one Lord Bruce, and he said something about Lord Bruce being a general and engaging in some campaigns." I'll stop here. So, my realization from today's reading is um, Steve, Chuck, and Bruce are the early devotees of Srila Prabhupada, and Steve, who later became Satswarupa Das Goswami, was working, and that day during lunch hour, he wanted to go to Prabhupada's storefront and buy some books and then go to lunch and return to work. And some Prabhupada followers told Steve to meet Prabhupada there. So he went to his apartment. There he saw Prabhupada sitting with his followers. And there he asked Prabhupada that he could purchase 3 volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the first 3 volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam was written by Srila Prabhupada before coming to America. And Steve paid $20 and he wanted to leave, but Prabhupada asked him to sit down. And Steve was on a lunch break and he did not have much time and he wanted to leave for his work. And the Chak who became Achyutananda later, invited by one of the devotees of Prabhupada in the storefront, and there he saw no furniture in Prabhupada apartment, and he was sitting on a cotton mat which was covered by a cloth. And Bruce, who became Brahmananda later, um, and he was the first temple president at New York. Bruce told his friend Valley that he wanted to go to India and become a professor. Then Valley said that why going to India? Swamiji is here, so India has come here. So Bruce wanted to meet Prabhupada in a apartment number 2C. When he rang the bell, Prabhupada followers opened the door. Prabhupada was sitting on a mat behind a metal suitcase and they talked intimately. There was a picture of Lord Chaitanya um, dancing in Kirtana on the wall, and Prabhupada talked about Lord Chaitanya. Thank you.